Alright, what's up, guys? Today I actually want to talk about something that's a pretty big problem, I think, in the Avatar fandom and or like the extended Avatar canon. And that's basically the way that certain material that is extended from the canon, I'm talking about anything that is not the show itself, how that sometimes damages the legacy of the show because you have, different writers, and you have maybe even the same writers sometimes coming back and not remembering, maybe, or just being different in what they prioritize in their writing. So it, changing things that we used to know or representing certain things in a maybe not too great light. I'm not gonna like recap the entire comic or any of that because there's only really one thing in there that really messes with me. And it's basically this. The Korra comic Turf Wars adds something to Fire Lord Sozin's character that was never there before and was completely unnecessary, and I actually think very mischaracterized. So for those of you who have not heard of it or have not read it, basically, a big component of the Korra comic Turf Wars is Korra and Asami going around to their friends and family and basically, letting them know that they are in a lesbian relationship. Now, I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with the LGBT stuff. I love that. Actually, it's good to have that stuff around, in my opinion. But here is the problem with this. Here is the thing that I think, some of the people who we often think are just being bigots, this might be one of the things that when they complain about, they're not wrong. And basically, Korra and Asami go to Kaya, Katara and Aang's daughter, and they talk about how they came out. And then Kaya actually talks about how she came out as a lesbian, a long time ago, and how, her dad, Aang, was very supportive of it, which is really nice, and it makes a lot of sense. And she talks about how the various, nations of the world would respond to that. But for whatever reason, the Fire Nation in particular was not only not accepting of like lesbian or any sort of gay relationships, but they were, I think, outright like outlawed. And the person they lay this at, the person they make the big evil bigot who, just deserves to be just straight up like dehumanized and just be a villain, is Sozin, right? And to some people, that might not even be a problem. You might be like, well, Sozin, that's the guy who literally genocided the airbenders, right? Like, he was a super evil guy, so of course he would do this, right? And there's just one big problem with that. I would be inclined to believe that Sozin could be a bigot if we had not seen the episode, The Avatar and the Fire Lord, where they humanize Sozin as a character, even though he is a villain, right? Fire Lord Sozin is actually a very deep person, and we see throughout the episode that he wasn't just all bad. There was a lot of good there. Like, this guy was literally Avatar Roku's best friend. When he found out that he was the Avatar and that he couldn't have any possessions, he literally gave up the artifact of the Crown Prince so that he would have something of home and something from his friend to carry with him. And we see that that meant a lot to Roku because he carries that thing everywhere until he dies, right? And we also see even later on, after he becomes Fire Lord, there's a good scene. He's like, well, customarily, my subjects bow, but not you. You're my friend, right? And then later on, like when Zuko is reading the text, there's another very humanizing moment that happens with him where he's like, I miss the old days when I had my friend, right? And this is after him and Roku had the big fight. So it just shows that Fire Lord Sozin was not like a blank canvas kind of evil. He was the kind of evil person who did things for a reason, right? Like, for instance, with the genocide of the airbenders. Yeah, that's an unspeakably evil thing to do. But up until recently, because there's more stuff that's been done with Sozin that ruins his character a little bit to me. Like, for instance, there's I think a book or a comic that says that his sister, who we didn't know existed back in the Avatar and the Fire Lord, was basically trying to like involve more air nomad philosophy and culture into the Fire Nation, and that Sozin didn't really like that. See, none of that was a thing in the show, right? If the next airbender, if the next Avatar had been like a waterbender or had been on the Earth Kingdom, he never would have genocided the airbenders. He probably never even would have went after them. It was like a means to an end. Like, the guy was undeniably evil, but he wasn't the type of evil where, oh, I'll just attack anyone, I'll just destroy anything. No, he did what he did for intelligent reasons, for logical reasons, not just to be evil, right? And we see that this guy actually had a character, like I've mentioned before. And the last problem I have is them changing Fire Lord Sozin into just an evil bigot. It kind of undermines, I feel like, what the message of the Avatar and the Fire Lord was. The message that Aang in the episode pretty heavy-handedly tries to get across is that, good people can do bad things, bad people can do good things, and that no one is born evil. Anyone is capable of anything, right? Which I know you could use that message to say, oh, well, Sozin's capable of being a bigot, but that was not there. I don't think that Sozin would be a bigot, which is the problem there. You just completely dehumanize this character who has been humanized. This character who is a character. Sozin is not a blank slate for you to attach anything wrong you want to onto him. He's a character. He was set up. He has an entire episode where he was set up to be deeper than that. So while I wouldn't have a problem with, say, Ozai or, say, Fire Lord Azulon being revealed to be this huge bigot, I wouldn't have a problem with those characters because those characters don't get humanized and characterized, I believe, enough so that you would think that this is like against their character, right? We don't actually know a lot about those characters. So if they needed someone to be the evil bigot, they should have slapped it onto one of them. But anyway, like, I actually got a comment not too long ago that was asking me if I would recommend like any like extended universe Avatar stuff. And the answer is no. And the reason why the answer is no is because of things like this. This isn't the only thing that's happened that has made me feel this way. A lot of extra Avatar material has actually left me with like a sour taste in my mouth. And not even just me, like things like The Search, a lot of people were put off by. Azula in the Spirit Temple, a lot of people, including myself, were put off by. Things like that people don't like. Now, things like the Kyoshi novels, I've heard a lot of things good about, even though I haven't read them. But because of all of this like bad stuff being like inserted into the Avatar extended canon, and some of it kind of changing the way I look at characters and changing the way I look at Avatar, I actually would not recommend like a purist or a person who really likes Avatar the show to read any of the extended materials, because I feel like they can be very, very mischaracterizing and bad sometimes.